Hey everyone, Brian here with DIY Outdoor Life, and you might notice by looking around that I'm a long ways away from the Catskills. We are in Hyde State Park, just outside Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I'm about 2,100 miles away from the Catskills. That's direct route. Real-time travel, we're probably in over 2,500, but I'm on about day 7 of a 30-day road trip. And what I'd like to do, because people that watch the channel have been asking, is to put together a little bit of a series here, a little bit of like a vlog series. What I want to do is share some of the places that we're traveling. A lot of the places I pick and the routes I take, I'm learning from other people that tip you off to some of these nice places. The other thing that can happen here is sometimes when we're road tripping or traveling, little tips and tricks and hacks, they develop in real time. And it might just be a little thing and never make it into like a standalone video, but that stuff is helpful, and I know I've learned a lot from you guys, so please feel free to leave as many comments as you want and share some of your tips and tricks with me, and come along with me on this 30-day cross-country road trip with the Tacoma and the hiker. It's now hailing. I don't know if this is coming through on the camera. So I don't know if this thunder and rain is showing up on the microphone and camera, but yeah, we're in an area that really doesn't get much rain, but as soon as I take the camera out, there's a thunderstorm passing overhead. But one thing I notice here in the Southwest is things dry out really quickly. You know, at home, if I put an awning away wet, it'll be all full of mildew in like a day or two. Here, it seems like I can get a cotton shirt soaking wet, and in like 20 minutes of it clearing up, the shirt dries out. So that's different. I'm getting used to that. But what I wanted to talk about today is some basic stuff about cross-country travel, but from a big picture. You know, I don't know where this series will go, but I kind of know where I start. This whole activity of camping out, tiny trailers, cross-country travel, it's like my favorite thing in life. Now, I can't give that to you. We all have our own different preferences and what we like and don't like, but there's just something about being able to travel, especially when I'm kind of improvising, right? We just kind of create an outline of the trip, but I don't book and itinerize every single thing on the trip. We like to kind of feel a place out. If we want to stay, we stay. If we want to head back on the road, we head back on the road. But here in Santa Fe, this is where Lucia's family's from, so we know that we wanted to make this a hub. We'll be staying here for a few weeks, and I'll take some day trips like what I'm doing today. I'll do some overnights, but in a couple weeks, we're gonna take probably 10 days to meander our way back across the country. I wanna make my way through Colorado, but I don't know yet where we're gonna go. I just know eventually we have a date where we'll have to be back home. So I consider myself middle-aged. I don't know if that's true or not. I could die tomorrow, but there's a pretty good likelihood that I've lived about half of my life. So I'm not quite old enough to be wise. You know, that refinement comes with time, but I am old enough to know what I like and what I don't like, and I know how to carve out time to make sure I spend quality time doing the things that me and Lucia enjoy, and Ripple too. You know, I come to a place that rains like 4 times during the summer and I bring it with me. Okay, change of scenery. The sky really opened up on me there. There was hail and wind and lightning storms. I'm not used to this southwestern weather. So we mixed it up, we hit the road for a little bit, and I want to pick up where I left off. Now, normally I would edit a scene like that out. I would just start over fresh and, I'd have continuity. I'd wear the same shirt or something and I'd start filming again. But this change actually plays into one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. But first, I want to pick up where I left off. I was talking about being middle-aged, not being old enough to, really know what I want to do, but being old enough to have made some mistakes and really start to develop an idea, a philosophy on finding a way to live as good a life as possible. I know at this point in time that I absolutely love the travel, seeing new places, being able to spend enough time there to kind of take in the culture and the food. And for me, this setup behind me, the tiny camper, I have a bushwhacker and a hiker, and this setup that I have for a pickup truck are the tools that I use to do this. So I don't want you to get the wrong idea. When I tell you that this is my favorite thing, I want you to pin that together with it was a worthwhile endeavor to make some investment, as much investment as I could within my means. So we're gonna be doing some show and tell on these series, and I don't want the comments from people that say, oh, it must be nice. You probably get all this stuff for free, and that's why you have all these gadgets. That's not what it's about. We all have a way within our means to get the tools needed to get out and do what we want to do. And hopefully if you watch my channel, you want to get outdoors more and stay outdoors longer. So for today, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the tow vehicle. We pass over this a lot. People don't speak about this as much as they should when they're making videos about traveling. The tow vehicle is probably 70% of the equation. It might be more exciting to talk about the hiker, but really a lot of the investments I made are in having a good, comfortable setup that I can travel and meet the demands that I have on the road. So let me show you. Now, every once in a while I get a comment ever since I got the hiker with the big tongue box loaded up with gear, with the giant oversized spare, and I got things hanging off this all over the place. They ask that with that arc jack if I'm still able to move the trailer around by hand. And the truth is I am. It's not really all that difficult, especially if you're on a harder surface. On this blacktop, it's really gonna be easy. Now, if I get out and get on some grass or some loose sand or something, it's a different story, but the arc jack is a great investment. It's a lot easier than the systems that I use on the bushwhacker, even with that double wheel, but it's a big heavy trailer. So I do have the lock and roll hitch. We'll talk about this series for sure, but I find the whole system to be pretty easy. You learn some tips and tricks on how to get that arc jack off, but as far as a normal 2-inch coupler, I have really grown to love this style of hitch and this Arc Jack 500 series. So we'll see if I fast forward this, but yeah, it's heavy. It's weighting down the whole back of the truck. But once this comes free, I basically use the same system that I do on the bushwhacker. I like to use a strap. That's much nicer than grabbing a hold of this and moving it by hand. You want to make sure that you're on level ground or relatively level. You don't want your trailer rolling away from you. I mean, I'm in Crocs. So is it more difficult in dirt and sand? Absolutely. But is that a convenience? 100%. So let me wheel this truck around and we'll start doing the tour of the truck. We'll take up 1.5 spaces to do this video. This area seems pretty open and I don't think I'm gonna be bothering anybody. So most of the time, our tow vehicle is the most expensive investment in our traveling and camping setup. I know there's exceptions. People have these enormous high dollar campers, and even the hiker decked out like it is pretty expensive. And I bought this truck secondhand with 85,000 miles on it, so I might have a comparable investment in both the camper and the tow vehicle. But like I was talking about, as far as developing philosophies here, there's a lot that goes into this. I bought a secondhand truck so I could spend extra money outfitting it in a way that would be like a purpose-designed vehicle for me. This thing is all about camping. Now, some folks just get a nice Mercedes van, and someday I could see myself ending up in a situation like that. But for our lives and what we do, I need this to be my daily driver as well. So I really like being able to disconnect the teardrop, the hiker, and be able to have this vehicle to go get groceries or drive to work. I like to be able to detach the bed section of my camping rig. I also am kind of jealous of those van folks from time to time. I get up really early. Lucia loves to sleep. The idea of being able to start that van and start driving while she's sleeping seems like an awesome idea. I keep trying to do that with the trailer and she's not a huge fan. I don't think it's a good idea to let her sleep while I'm going 80 miles an hour down the highway when she's in the trailer portion of this. But for now, when I was deciding what vehicle to get, I really knew I needed a truck, something with enough towing capacity to be able to tow those campers with ease, to be able to go through mountainous areas, slow them down when you're hitting the brakes. Even with a heavier vehicle like this, I do like using trailer brakes. Now, we spent a lot of money getting a cap on this truck, and I'm gonna show you what's in the back of this next. But my most recent addition, I always had a roof rack that could come on and off, but you guys might have seen my video on the Bouge RV cargo platform. This thing also, as I showed you, has a deployable solar tray. And this thing is really awesome. This is our first road trip with this. It's getting 75 watts into a power station while I'm driving down the road. That's because of that SIGS technology. They're working at 50% of rating, even with all of that roof rack covering the top and shading things. When I put some gear up there, obviously that number goes down. But during these long days traveling in the Southwest, if I have a 10-hour drive during the day, it's not uncommon to get, 800 to 1,000 watt hours into the battery with the roof rack closed. That is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I have other options to charge my power setups as well, but when I do deploy the rack, I'm getting the full 150 watts. So I'm cheating a little bit. I'm in like the best solar conditions on the planet, but even in upstate New York, I got this thing to put out 150 watts. When it's deployed, I can plug this into my camper. I have a charge controller that sends that charge into the hiker or the bushwhacker. But for the most part, I can store some power stations back here, and this thing has been clutch. It's worth every penny. As I give you a tour through the truck, I do think we're on the brink of getting a new vehicle. And it just figures because I finally got this thing dialed in. But at 130,000 miles, we're making some decisions. We're thinking about getting a new ride. Maybe I'll post this on the channel and somebody can get this fully outfitted camping mobile. Well, let me show you the inside. Now, for the inside of the truck, there's a couple things. It's important to keep it clean. That's a real tough one for me. I always try to scrub it down before a big road trip, but you're gonna be spending a lot of time in that cabin. So I really want as little clutter as possible. And I try to carefully place some items that we need on the road. Please leave a comment if there's certain items that you put in your easy to reach area. Again, that's how I learned too. But I got a sunglasses holder. On the sides, I have a little sunscreen. I have some napkins, a couple treats for the dog. You want to keep your cup holders open because you know I'm always stopping. There's water, there's coffee, there's all those things. I try to keep a little bag for garbage and I dump it out when I go to gas stations. But for the most part, I want the cabin to be open. I have a little clip there with a magnet for my iPhone. I like to use the iPhone for the GPS, but if I were to get a new vehicle, I would look for one of those Apple CarPlays or whatever the Android one is to display the map. You know, I did grow up on atlases and maps, the paper style, but there's nothing like a good GPS on these long road trips, especially when you're improvising. I start getting tired and I ask my co-pilot, find us a Cracker Barrel, find us a state park, find us someplace to go en route, and she's able to make those changes almost instantaneously. Now for our setup, we decided to get a truck with a full-size back seat. They make the Tacoma in all sorts of orientations. I know they do with other trucks as well. But even though we don't have kids and we seldom bring a passenger in the back when we're on these road trips, the full back seat was critical. Remember, the whole time you're camping, this is a high-quality, waterproof, hard shell place. So when you're in tiny campers, if you're getting rained out for a couple days, sometimes I'll go in here, I'll read a book, I'll play on my phone if I have service. So you don't want to take that for granted that this is part of our shelter. Now, truth be told, I do a lot of solo road trips and the back seat is key. I actually knock the seat down and I can store my e-bike back there or an e-scooter, and it's super accessible. I have the foldable one to be able to pull into a campsite and to be able to go and explore. I'm looking where we're parked now. There's a 15-mile paved bike trail here. It's really nice to have quick access to that. On the other side, I have that nice car refrigerator that I put there to have cold drinks on the road. When Lucia and Ripple are with me, all bets are off. This whole back seat is basically devoted to Ripple. So when we go underneath here, I'm on pack now because we're kind of stationary, but we put some go bags here. Something for the dog, towels, an extra blanket, her leash, her collar, all those extra things that are for the dog, I put there. And I try to make sure that it's soft so it fills this void up. The idea is that we throw her dog bed back here and she has her whole little palace. She has access to air conditioning. And if you're traveling with a pet, I don't want you to overlook this. You want the pet to have as good a time as you are. And if we're putting in some 12-hour windshield days where we're just trying to travel 1,000 miles or more on the road, you don't want your dog to be stir crazy or cat or whatever you have, lizard, I don't know. So we really devote a lot of that space and she loves it. She'll climb up on the middle console when we're driving, she'll sleep. Traveling is one of her favorite things, and we're making sure, because she does so much for us, that the least we could do is to make sure she's very comfortable. Little side pouch on the door here is a couple different cleaners and some dog bags so that when we're stopping roadside, we have something to take care of Ripple. Now, let me show you the other side. Now, the other side of the truck here is where the magic happens. I do like to be able to take the seat down here. And I think most trucks will do this. You know, the seats are split like 70-30. So with the Tacoma, it comes down and there's a nice hard surface here. This still gives plenty of space for Ripple, but this becomes a multi-use space. You're gonna put a little cooler here, a little bag of food or snacks on the road. I put a change of clothes, a bathing suit, my hiking shoes, all those things that while we're traveling, we might do at the spur of the moment. I make sure we don't have to unhook, go in the back, open up the camper. We have an easy access go bag. But for me, there's actually a lot more to this. I have an alternator charger for this vehicle. I'm a little bit spoiled and I actually ended up with 2 of them. So I have the Charger one from Blue Eddy and I have the EcoFlow 800 watt charger. They make a 500 and an 800. I'll do a whole breakout video on this because a lot of people have been asking, but I ran heavy duty wire from the truck's battery ran it down along the trim through the firewall. You can't see it. It comes up through behind this seat to a large heavy duty Anderson plug. That means I can plug in the EcoFlow charger or unplug that, plug in the Blue Eddy Charger 1. I have both of them in like a modular setup, which means I can put my power stations here to not rely on solar. If you're road tripping and spending a massive amount of time just going from point A to point B, that EcoFlow charger will charge 800 watts. I could turn that down to half speed and still fill up a 2000 watt power station in like 5 hours. I don't run my gear down to zero, but with things like off-grid AC, running the air conditioning on the trailer, on these little stop and go travels, or any other thing that you do that's power hungry, satellite internet and computers or whatever it is that you do, having the option to sit a power station here, it doesn't bother Ripple. She'll lean up against it, and to get a fast charge into it is critical, and I've devoted this part of the truck to be able to use those. So if this was an episode of MTV Cribs, the truck cap is really where the magic happens for me. I think this is the single best tiny camper hack going, and I know not everyone wants to get a pickup truck and put a cap on it, but this is where I spent a lot of time and effort because this is really just the best tool for me. Now, even though this is pretty well packed and I have some things missing, mainly that e-bike that I can't put in the back seat when Lucia and Ripple are here, it folds up, goes in the middle. It's miserable to pack even though it's foldable. But my trick here is to utilize this cap to the best of its functionality. For me, I do try to leave as much space open here as possible. This is my shed, my watertight shed when I'm on the road. You're set up, you're doing something, all of a sudden the storm starts moving through quickly, and the ability to just scoop stuff up and chuck it in the back. I'll worry about it when it stops raining. Chairs and lanterns and food and all sorts of different stuff gets thrown back here. If you're stopping on the road and you're towing the camper and you get a couple bags of groceries or something, it's easy enough to just sit it back here if you leave yourself some room. The temptation is to pack this thing as tight as possible, and it happens. So now one thing you're gonna notice is this deck system. Now, I got this a long time ago. They're a lot more expensive now than they were then. I still think they're worth every penny. If I got a new truck today, I would definitely get one of these systems. Now, of course, it's a double-edged sword. I can't put a full-size garbage can back here. It does eat up a lot of space, but what it does is it allows me to maintain a platform like a catch-all where I can put heavy gear. We'll talk about the heavier power stations I got slid back there, and still be able to access underneath. Now, I have a couple bottles that stay here. Sometimes I get access to water. There's a water fountain in a park or something. I fill these up and they're good for Ripple to put in her bowl when we're walking or hiking. This is her banana, not mine. But within these drawers, they have some really cool accessories. I'm sure some people own all of them. I just use this as like organized chaos. I know where everything is. I have things that I use frequently. You know, there's reusable zip ties and different types of tape. These are all the different charging cords for the power station and things like that. A nice pair of gloves. You know, whether you're working on something or you're going through your hitch and you're trying to keep your hands clean. All sorts of things that I use on the road. Now back here, there's an extension cord, but I also have one of those all-in-one toolkits. I'll throw different stuff in the video description of the products that I got, but that's so important for me. We're gonna do, you know, 30 days on the road. Things break. Or you might just want to do some modifications. I love doing mods on the road. That's when I kind of decide what the best thing to modify is in real time when I'm using it. So having a good toolkit, I supplement it with a few extra things that I might need. There's some ratchet straps. I throw a little tiny bucket in here. I fill it with little trinkets that I might want to get to on the road, but you can dump this out right into a little bag here that you could fill back up. And I use this for all sorts of stuff. Every once in a while, you're at a roadside stop, like a Walmart or a Cracker Barrel or something where you might want to wash something out, do your dishes, and you can't pour the water on the ground. This seals nice and tight, and it gives me a little like miniature gray water tank to brush your teeth or whatever you need. On the Bushwhacker, you could slide it underneath with your sink drain. If you just need 1 or 2, 1.5 gallons worth of gray water, that works really well. And then you can wander off in the bushes and dump it. So tons of stuff here, both to repair, modify, and just things that are easy access. And I don't have to fish through a bunch of boxes in the truck. The deck system really does make it great. Of course, it comes with a bottle opener. You know, I know you all need that. And a tape measure, so you can lie about how big the fish you caught was. Same thing with this side. All stuff I need at camp. Tent stakes. There's little bungees in here. I have a little hand saw and a hatchet, WD-40, graphite spray, a drill, all that stuff. From the old days, I always keep a little thing of fishing line here. I don't know why I think I'm some sort of survivalist, but a couple hooks, a lure, and a roll of fishing line. I know I can survive in most places, but probably not here. There's no water here, but you get the gist. Little catch-all of rags. This came from my friends at Touring and Trails. I love those guys. I met up with them on the road. I hope to do it again soon. Check out their channel. But they gave me a cool little care package. So I have some clean DIY Outdoor Life microfibers. I have some old ratty ones that aren't DIY. It's for wiping up grease and things like that. Some of these are very clean, some I've used already. Tons of microfibers, always a great idea. I store those there. Now, you might have noticed that the rest of this truck bed, and maybe it's a surprise to no one who watches this channel, but there's almost an embarrassing amount of power storage. And I feel like I owe you a little bit of an explanation, but some of you, like I said, you probably expected this. But I have the Delta 2 Max with an expansion battery. I have the brand new Apex 300. On the other side, I have a drone and cameras and the channel stuff. I have a couple Wave 3 batteries and the EcoFlow Wave 3. Now these are heavy power stations. And with the stackable ones, I actually use those rubber straps, these Titan straps. They're really, really nice. They stretch and latch on. I'll put a link in the description to those, but they'll secure those stackable power stations really well. They have a nice firm base at the bottom and they ride back there no problem. You can stick a towel around the sides to make sure that they're not jostling around. And if you're not doing some crazy off-roading, they stay put. But you notice I put them there and that's it. I don't touch them. They're heavy, especially with the expandable batteries. So by putting them in the back there, they do stay plenty cool. The sides of the caps open if need be, but I've never really had a heat problem back here. But what I do is I set up a system. Here's a tip for you. I get an appliance cable. This is the best way to go because it's flat. It's usually heavy. You can get a 12 gauge one. They make 14 gauge ones. I like getting the 12 gauge one. They take up less space. They're not 100 feet long. They're just long enough to plug into that power station and use the power back here. Now, of course, I have smaller power stations. I have one in the galley of the camper, but for your heavy stuff, if you cook on electric or something like that, I don't have to move the power station. I bring the power to me. And this flat cord actually shuts really nicely. Power station stays waterproof and this cord will fit right through and I can attach what needs power. Now, the reason I have, over 10,000 watt hours that I'm lugging around the country is because 30 days in the summer, we don't plug in anywhere. If we go to a campsite with power, it was because that's what was available. We're really choosing boondocking sites and the $10 campsites at state campgrounds. And I'm running air conditioning almost every night. It's been over 100 degrees at some of the places that we're going. So I'll show you the Wave 3. I might have already put that video out. This is what cools the hiker trailer. And I had an experiment here. I've never gone this long in these hot of temperatures. So you would need an ungodly amount of solar. So what I do is I run these off of run the air conditioner off the power stations. I have the alternator charger to charge them up if I need to do that. But for the most part, I can keep these power stations charged off the rooftop solar and there's enough reserve to go several nights with air conditioning. And if I need to plug in a charger, the same cord that I use to draw power from, I simply attach to the charger and plug this in someplace that I can mooch a charge. Most recently, it was at a relative's house, but a lot of times I can get to an outlet for a short period of time and steal a little bit of charge that way. So far, I have more power than I need, but I had to figure it out somewhere. I didn't want to end up coming up short, so I brought a ridiculous amount. Now, I'm going to show you more tips and tricks later. I can devote a video to that, but like the Apex 300 has an EV charger and a 30 amp charger where you can charge up a massive 3,000 watt hour or larger with the expansion batteries in unthinkable time. I mean, a full 240 volt electric car charging station, you know, pretty cool stuff. So that's the layout for the power. This video is probably running pretty long, so I'll wrap this up. But a lot of times we skip over our tow vehicle and we focus on the camper. We'll have plenty of time to go through the ideas on the camper and the storage and the things that we packed into that. But the idea here is to focus on the tow vehicle so that the camper is always ready to go. So if you made it this far in the video, I really hope to see your comments. Let me know what you think, some of the tricks that I might have passed over, some of the items that are must-have for you, and we can all learn through that comment section as well. But I thank you guys so much for watching. There'll be a new series video coming out soon where we'll focus on something else, but until next time, I will see you guys later.